This is a Tracking the Tropics update with the certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.
Hurricane Erick in the eastern Pacific. I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta. Let's talk about what's happening out here in the East Pac and also the Atlantic. Why we haven't had a named storm system yet, albeit it's a little bit behind average for our first named storm, but not completely unusual. What is unusual is in the East Pac. You notice with Erick already on our E letter. That's our fifth named storm, which makes it the busiest start to the Eastern Pacific hurricane season on record. Record goes back to 1971, mind you, but for about 50 years, we've never gotten up these many storm systems right off of the bat here. And this is actually the second hurricane, too. The other ones aren't really duds. They still formed up. Now, with this, though, with Erick here, do anticipate it to kind of come on shore there along the southwestern coastline of Mexico. Still as a Cat 2, maybe even a Cat 1. Once it hits the mountains there, it starts to get kind of squeezed out a bit like a sponge. I do anticipate it to weaken up fairly quickly. But let's take a look at our satellite picture here, give you a kind of a broader view, because there is that convection coming on shore and a little bit of an eye right in that center. In fact, the pressure in that center is estimated here at 991 millibars, but advanced Dvorak analysis is basically what we use to analyze storms when we don't have hurricane hunters or anything like that. It's basically the cloud top and plus the overall organization of a storm based on historical storms. Behind that actually puts the pressure a little bit lower, around 985 millibars right now. So this indicates to me it is strengthening, which is expected. You can see right here it goes up to a Cat 2, but then once it nears that landfall, hits a little bit of cooler waters right offshore and then kind of gets squeezed out over the mountains there of central Mexico. And no impacts on the United States. Maybe eventually some of the moisture will head off towards Texas, kind of get a little monsoonal rainfall, but nothing organizing or anything heading over towards the Gulf here. So if you are in Florida, I wouldn't be terribly concerned. In fact, take a look at our future cast here. You see our little eye trying to develop, pushing off towards north, coming on shore, and then almost disintegrating as it pushes onshore right about there here on our Thursday night, and heading over towards Friday as well. Some of that convection, you see that move over towards the Gulf, and in this particular model, separately, you do have a little bit of a low trying to form up out there in the Gulf, but it's not going to be anything organized, just more of this kind of surge of moisture heading off towards north. And in fact, speaking of surge of moisture, you can see that here, where some of the heaviest of the rainfall takes place there is along the southern coastline of Mexico, skipping across the mountains there, and even along the Gulf Coast, you can see that increase in the precipitation. But this all kind of surges together with the intertropical convergence zone, all of this moisture kind of setting up at the same time. For the Atlantic, though, I do want to mention no tropical systems are expected. You can kind of see where this big blob is over southern Mexico there, all of that moisture. But if you look off towards the east and our typical formation areas, I don't really see anything happening over the upcoming week or even heading through the end of July for that matter. And as I mentioned, that would be fairly late in the season, above our average first name storm. Granted, it always only takes one, and we always go back to Andrew. Andrew took place in September, and that was the first name storm system of 1992 with Hurricane Andrew, an A. So even though we don't have one yet, still the energy's out there and the potential for formation. But right now, nothing in the Atlantic side. As I mentioned, though, look at that convection spilling over there in southern Mexico. I want to watch the Gulf Coast, but really we're keeping a close eye on Erick here. I think that's the big topic when you look at that. Looking off towards the east, one of our big topics at the time is Saharan dust. Actually, got some dry air really continuing to dominate our forecast out towards the central Atlantic, heading into the Caribbean. That's what's being indicated here with that brown moving across Cuba. And all that dry air, it may not be here on the first coast over the state of Florida, but it is inhibiting most tropical development in the Caribbean. In fact, we could take a look at what Saharan dust is. It blows out of the Sahara there across the continent of Africa, and that dust gets picked up by, mid to upper level winds, gets carried across, and it does a few things. One, it enters dry air into the picture. Tropical systems don't like that. It also blocks out the sun, provides some slightly cooler temperatures, and just in general, not the best type of setup for tropical weather. And with that said, if you look at the Gulf out here, temperatures for the sea surface temperatures into the mid 80s. Yeah, there you go. And we're continuing to warm up. 80 degrees is what you need for tropical development. And once we get into the mid to high 80s, near 90, that's just gasoline for the fire here. So may not have a storm system yet, but once we do start getting something organized out there, it could spin up fairly quickly. Andrea being the first name on the list for the Atlantic hurricane season. Before now, as I mentioned, it really is all eyes on Erick here. I know a few storm chasers are going to be heading out there towards southern Mexico, tracking the storm system as it comes on shore. They should be getting ready for maybe Cat 1 gust. More than likely tropical storm strength conditions right near the coast there, just because I do anticipate this to weaken up pretty quickly as it hits the mountains. But some of those mountains really could squeeze out. You get a little bit of that orographic lifting, and we're going to be talking about some pretty heavy rain totals there along our coastline. Casper on here jumping on, and how are you doing today? Hope you're doing fantastic. Says that if Erick makes landfall as a major hurricane, it would be the first major hurricane in June on record for the Eastern Pacific. So that would mean it would have to get up to a Cat 3. Casper is one of those very knowledgeable people. Thank you for commenting on our Facebook page here. That's the potential. As I mentioned at the beginning, I would be surprised if it makes landfall as a Cat 3, but I think it could make it up to a Cat 3. And the reasoning, my analysis, not to say it's right or wrong, is that it is intensifying pretty quickly right now. It's moving through an area of allow for further intensification. But I do think once that northern portion of the storm starts slamming into the mountains, that's going to kind of start squeezing it, entering more dry air friction. So hopefully when the technical landfall, the actual center of the storm, comes on shore, it is a bit weaker. Down to that Cat 1, maybe even tropical storm status. But now that the core of the storm and even the outflow is still offshore, I think it's still going to maintain that intensity, and to go up to a Cat 2, we could see that 3. That would be very interesting. But if it did make landfall, that's good to know. It would be the first major hurricane in the month of June to make landfall in the Eastern Pacific. Now, with that said, it already is pretty active out here. Already, 5 named storms is record-breaking since records began in the East Pac. So, going to continue to keep an eye on Hurricane Erick. But once again, no threats in the Atlantic for the time being. I am going to watch that convection as it spills over towards the Gulf here. Still got the Saharan dust back towards the east. That's continuing to keep things calm for now, but Western Caribbean, the Gulf here, that's where you typically would see storms develop in the month of June. So we're always keeping an eye on it. As always, though, if you have any questions, maybe I didn't answer your questions right now on the tropics, let me know in the comment section down below. You can always write me at Robert Sped at First Coast News, rsped at firstcoastnews.com, or check me out on any of our social media platforms. Also, don't forget to check out Hurricane Central at firstcoastnews.com. Newly revamped site. We're trying to make it useful. I know that sounds silly, but for real, especially weather geeks, we know what we're looking for in model data, different satellite views, all that stuff. Putting that in there so it could be a go-to resource for you as we track the storms, not just our analysis, but you can get some of the information of what we're looking at as well. All right. That's what we got going on right now. See if we have any other questions here. I don't see any for the time being, but if we do, I'll try my best to answer them when we get to it. So, as always, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, and make sure you check out all the other resources here on FCN Plus and at firstcoastnews.com.